When an alien force invaded Earth and threatened the Black Armory's vaults, Henriette and her daughter Adelaide were forced to flee in the hopes they could find a place to survive. Today we're going to talk about the howling beast that smelled like wet earth, where the Black Armory may have originated, and much more.
What we offer, Guardian, is privilege, normally afforded to those who do not already have their own. Today, however, it would seem our doors are open to you. Welcome to the Black Armory.
Alright Guardians, welcome back to the channel. Hope you are doing well, hope you're having an amazing day, and let's get right into this video. So about a week ago we dove into the mysteries behind Ada 1 and the Black Armory's creation. We discussed that Ada's mother Henriette built the Black Armory along with two others, and their names were Helga and Yuki. Henriette knew some people out there, and they told her that this new anomaly was detected near the edge of the system, and she was like, alright, I'm not just going to wait for other people to find a solution for this, I'm going to take matters into my own hands, so she started the Black Armory. So the original goal was to build weapons that would defend humanity, weapons that would be the best of their kind, and at the top of the line in terms of defense. So this is what they set out to do. They began crafting these weapons thinking of mothers, daughters, fathers, lovers, anyone who would be able to use these in a time of need, right? But one of her partners, Helga, began quickly plotting new ways to make these weapons more accessible to the general public. So when these ideals eventually went through, many more people would be able to get their hands on these beautifully crafted wares, and Henriette did not take well to this situation. This was not her vision. It would be too hard to control, track, and sell these weapons, and she pretty much says that power without control will lead to chaos.
Dare I go against our values and ask a Guardian to craft a new Black Armory weapon? If I do, our operations could finally restart. But more of their kind would come. They'll want our wares, of course. We'll need more supplies to meet demand, which means even more Guardians, which means further disgracing the memory of our founder. You've put me in quite the predicament.
So essentially these forges were placed all around the world and even on different planets, which would allow people to print their own Black Armory machines and use them as they needed or to gain power. Now the important thing to know from Henriette's standpoint is that these weapons were built because something called the anomaly was detected deep within the system. Here's what it says. We are not alone with the traveler. Something else has been detected out there, an anomaly of sorts. I'm lucky to have friends in informative places who tell me these things. They don't know what it is, but there is something. Could be another traveler, could just be a wonky radio wave, or could be something really bad. So this is why they began to mass produce these weapons, and even went a step further, adding exos into the mix, allowing them to craft weapons on the go, and this was called Project Niobe. Now just a little side note, we have something called the Niobe Labs coming in a couple of weeks, so there's a little backstory for you there on that. But the point is, after all this madness and doubt, this said anomaly did arrive in the inner system and eventually made its way to Earth. Here are various descriptions of how they, describe what attacked them. They are here, they are real. I can't believe we were so right and so wrong. To think that we could stop this, to say we were naive would be an understatement. We simply didn't know their power, their strength. It's insurmountable. As they draw closer, all we can do is hide in the hope the facility doors will be strong enough. It's utter chaos out there. Too many people put their faith in the traveler. I don't know what sort of answers people expected from my gigantic ball in the sky. It remains silent, as always. At least I'm with her. Being with family is what matters in the end. There is no hope, only the screams of humanity. The howling is loudest at night. By dawn the quiet returns, and with it the horrid smell that brings the dogs. Last night we awoke in the middle of the night to the sound of something pounding on the walls. It roared and stomped and howled in frustration until it found the doors. They didn't hold. I never saw it. We were too occupied blindly firing around the corner. I just remember the smell of wet earth and the sound I've never heard before, like a machine being stretched and then compressed. When it was over, we'd lost members of our Black Armory family, and the thing, whatever it was, got away. So there's a couple of interesting things to note here. We know that whatever invaded is the darkness, right? It's pretty obvious that that's what this anomaly is. Now we don't know if this is the true darkness force or if it's something that sort of follows the darkness like we follow the light. For example, we use the Traveler's Light, it's our power, but we aren't actually the light itself, if that makes sense. Anyway, these creatures are described as howling insurmountable giants that stomp and howl in frustration. Also, Henriette recalls the smell of wet earth and the sound she's never heard before when they broke into the armory, like a machine being stretched and compressed. This is super cool as we get a description of what attacked humanity when the darkness washed up on our shore. Of course, it's still a big mystery as Bungie likes to do, and we don't know what they look like or if others came with them, but it's still pretty cool nonetheless. Now thinking about all of that, here are some concepts from Destiny 1's development that never made it into the game. When you think about the sounds of wet earth, you may think of the image on the right. It kind of resembles it, a connection there. And I mean, hey, you never know if these could be possibly used someday. They did use these pyramid ships for Destiny 2, and that was also a concept from before Destiny 1 came out. Now thinking about the descriptions of this darkness force reminded me of the Drifter's encounter with an alien species trapped in a cage on an icy rock. On this rock there were tons of alien monoliths left by the inhabitants long ago, and inside some of those were some creatures trapped within cages. Now the Drifter and his crew thought these were the only ones on this icy rock, but it turns out there were many more out there in the cold, and they eventually killed some of his crew, but here's a description. Anyway, this thing, the creature, looked like it shared common bioenergetics with the Hive, but there were no records then or since that I've seen of humanity's encounters with them. And the creature had a property the Hive did not have. It produced a field that repressed light like a darkness zone, but contained a gooey vacuous form with no head. So these two explanations of the Drifter's encounter and what Henriette found in the lab sound a bit different. Many people suggest that what the Drifter found on this icy rock or moon could have been the Taken, but even that seems a little bit fishy as these creatures slither around and repress light with their own darkness zones. I mean, the Drifter tells us that they smothered one of his friends and killed him in his sleep, and pretty much blocked out the light without any of them knowing. So something else that tied to that is that these creatures were stuck in cages when the Drifter got there. If these were taken, they would be able to teleport around, and they wouldn't really have a restriction as such. We see it with their blights all the time, them popping in and out of reality, right? This is much different than the giant hulking beast breaking through the vault doors and howling in frustration. So we definitely do need more info, but thought it would be fun to compare the two and see what we can gather from those different experiences. But in regards to the attack on Henriette's bunker, I find it interesting to think where they might have been. Now upon first reading the card, you may have thought it was in the Black Armory at the tower, right? That's where the Black Armory is. But actually, Ada most likely built this place in the tower long after she became an Exo, and the first Black Armory facility was most likely located in Europe. In the book, she says, "I'm hopeful that we can make it to the Mediterranean Sea. Even if it means going through the Alps, we might be able to find a small boat." An island sounds perfect, and I think Corsica should be the end goal, but with our luck, it will be beset by some sort of invincible sea monsters. So Henriette and Adelaide, which was Ada's name before she became an Exo, are part of one of the three families that created the Black Armory, of course. They are the French family, Helga is the Norse family, and Yuki is Japanese. So this could have been somewhere in France given her description of getting to the island of Corsica, which is next to Italy. She also explains they'll get there even if they need to pass through the Alps, so my random guess at this point is that it's somewhere around here if it's not in France. So this is where they began their journey after leaving the armory to try and find safety from these dark invaders. They did eventually make it to the shoreline and realized they couldn't go any farther to the island, but along the way they encountered a camp and found the first risen guardians who eventually came into conflict with them, which is all described in my previous video. But Guardians, that's all I got for today's video. With this information, we get yet another glimpse of what the darkness may be, and it sounds pretty terrifying given it smells like wet earth and howls like a machine being stretched and compressed. But let me know down below what other mysteries and secrets you'd like to see in future videos, and I thank you very much for watching. Anyway, my name's Evade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.